Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. You are welcome to the live show concerning the Police and Crime Commissioner election, which is taking place on 15th of November for West Midlands. We are having a debate today with all the candidates. It's a 6 candidate, 1 candidate unfortunately unable to attend our debate. And we're starting, I will put the question to all the candidates and they will answer whatever they like to. And then I will ask all our viewers to make your mind up to whom you're going to be support. I'm today here not as a Labour Party councillor, I'm as a host. So I will try my best to provide the equality. I'm starting from my right. To introduce gentlemen and ladies, please, yourself 1 minute each. I'm starting from my right.
My name is Bill Etheridge. I'm the candidate for UKIP. I was born and brought up in Wolverhampton, multicultural, multi-ethnic Wolverhampton, and during my 25 years since I left schooling, I've been involved in business. My policies are all about bobbies on the beat, responsible community policing and trust between all communities and the police to give us all an opportunity to do well in our lives, to do well in business and to move society together fairly and equally as one great country. So I hope that we'll get to know each other better during the course of all this.
My name's Matt Bennett. I'm the Conservative candidate for West Midlands Police and Crime Commissioner. I have a background in public services, management and commissioning. I was a councillor in Birmingham City Council, part of the leadership controlling a £3.5 billion budget. I grew up in multicultural Birmingham. I am comfortable living among different communities. I understand different communities, understand the different concerns and different passions. And I want to see tougher policing. I want to see the police crack down hard on antisocial behaviour and make the police work more effectively for the people and the public they serve.
Good afternoon, my name's Cath Hannon and I'm standing as an independent for the role of Police and Crime Commissioner. I'm offering a background of policing service, public service over 30 years. I was born in and raised in Handsworth, so I've got a really good feel for how diverse communities live and work in the West Midlands. I'm offering a raft of policing experience that covers everything from counter-terrorism to looking after children, adult protection. And as part of that, I want to cut the crime that concerns you, your communities and businesses. Put witnesses and victims at the centre of the criminal justice system. And introduce policies that allow women and children to have a voice in their own communities and identify the issues that are most concerning for them. And I will only have one boss, and that boss alone will be with the people of the West Midlands.
Thank you. Bob.
My name's Bob Jones. I'm the Labour Party candidate. I'm born and bred in inner city Wolverhampton and continue to live in inner city Wolverhampton. I have a track record of standing up for our communities. I was chair of the police authority in '95, where we saw the move from one of the biggest increases in crime to one of the biggest reductions in crime. I took over as national chair of all the police authorities and had a lead role in the introduction of neighbourhood policing. I'm 100% committed to retain neighbourhood policing, retain police community support officers. I will end the privatisation process and ensure that core policing service is accountable to you, the council taxpayer, not to private managers and private individuals. I will introduce local policing boards to ensure that all our local communities are able to play the lead role in determining police priorities and holding local police to account.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure being able to have this opportunity to speak directly into your home. I'm Derek Webley. I'm an independent candidate. I've been a member of the Police Authority for 11 years and 3 years as its chair. My commitment is to serve the community, to put the community first. I think policing is so important to all our lives that it ought not to be on a party political agenda. Hence, I'm standing saying we ought to keep party politics out of policing because it's the needs that you and I have that come first. Victims first, protect frontline policing, protect victims, put the people of the West Midlands first, act without fear or favour, support all people within the community and to value you as we go forward together to make the West Midlands the best region in this country and the safest. That can happen. It's possible because we can do that together.
Good afternoon. My name is Ayoub Khan. I'm standing as a Liberal Democrat candidate in this election. I grew up in a inner city area within Birmingham. I am currently a practicing barrister. I was a councillor for approximately 10 years, a cabinet member for local service and community safety for 4. And I firmly believe that this role is not a political role in any case. I firmly believe that whoever is elected will be listening to the people. It's not about whether you're a Labour politician, a Liberal or a Conservative or even an independent. I believe this role, whoever is elected, will be listening to the people. Certainly I will be listening to the people. And my key pledge to people out there which live in the West Midlands region is making sure that police respond quicker. That's why my pledge is to ensure that the 15-minute target, which is currently set for police to respond within, is reduced to one of 5 minutes, so they get to people in difficulty quicker and make sure that they are efficient and effective in their policing.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for the Sangat TV for the debate. And we're starting the question now. My first question is right to the candidate from UKIP. How will you take forward Section 17 of the Crime and Disorder Act 1998 and the statutory duty on the responsible agency to reduce crime and disorder? And what will be your approach to neighbourhood crime and disorder prevention and reduction?
Okay. An important part of dealing with neighbourhood crime and with reducing crime in general is what I touched on in my introduction, which was Bobby's on the beat. I want to get police out there into the communities, getting to know people, and for the people to know them, developing trust so they can have intelligence-led policing whereby they know exactly where the problems are, who the problems are. We get to know each other, we get to develop some trust and we get some feedback. But before that actually works properly, what I want to see is reported crime figures actually increasing. I want to see a massive increase in reported crime figures in the first year to 18 months that I'm in office, because that will show that the public actually believe that crime will be acted on and they are coming forward to report it. Because at the moment, as we all know, the public don't really think the police are going to act. So I think it's time the public trusted the police, told the police what the crimes are, and then we can deal with them.
Yes, Matt, same question to you, sir.
Well, absolutely. You need to have good, strong neighbourhood policing. And the issue at the moment is that many people don't bother to report crimes to the police because they feel as if that things aren't going to be acted upon. So you have to change the culture of the police. You have to make sure that things are acted on and a tough approach is taken. So I want to see zero tolerance approach to antisocial behaviour. I want to see the police coming down hard on street drinking, vandalism, graffiti, and I want them to be working with local communities so that they're actually tackling the things that the communities say are a problem to them. In terms of crime prevention, and particularly about crime prevention initiatives, I want to look at things that work, and I'll invest money in programmes and initiatives that work, working with local communities, ensuring the police continue to take that tough approach with the community's support.
Same question to you, Cath?
Absolutely. A key part of this is really understanding what communities want. Some communities have a very loud voice, some communities have a very quiet voice. And I want to introduce a system that allows people to have an equal voice. One of the things that is a common theme across all communities is safety and security. Now, the finance that's available to put bobbies on the beat also must extend to including PCSOs. PCSOs are at the heart of communities. They're the eyes and ears of the police. So they'll be retained, and I'll find finance to keep those people in the communities. But in addition to that, I want to encourage the recruitment of special constables, people who have a passion for policing, people who know their own local area and communities, and can also be involved with making their own communities safer.
Thank you. Lord?
Yes, answering your specific question, Gurdial, I think Section 17 of the 1998 Crime and Disorder Act was a major step forward in the way we approached crime and reducing crime. Instead of it just being the police that were responsible for fighting crime, Section 17 put a duty on all the local organisations, the council, the health authority, probation board, the health services, to actually come together, to pool their resources, pool their energies in fighting crime. And I think it's one of the major factors that drove it down. One of the problems with the new Police and Crime Commissioner is that partnership could well be undermined. The money for drugs intervention programme, youth offending team, community safety funding is being taken away from that local partnership and given to the Police and Crime Commissioner. The government's view is it should all be put out to tender to the local, to the lowest tenderer. I believe that money should be spent by local communities in Wolverhampton, in Birmingham, in Coventry, etc. I believe that I will passport that money back to those local partnerships so local people can make that decision. The change I will make, however, is rather than just officers who often don't even live in the area making those decisions, I will make that community-led. I will ensure that victims organisations, neighbourhood watch groups, local community and faith organisations are represented on that board, and they will be the people who are setting local priorities for their local police. They'll be determining how to spend that community safety money, and they will be holding their local police to account.
Thank you, Bob. Same question to you, Derek.
I think what's key to all of this is that the bedrock of local policing is built on how you and I and others engage. Policing cannot be done in isolation. It requires all of us to be involved in that process. So partnership has to be the way going forward. The best way is where that local accountability is held locally. And in each of your particular areas across the West Midlands, there is a local police commander. I will make that local police commander answerable to you on a monthly basis for the policing service that is being done with you in your name. Policing happens with consent, and the only way we can go forward and address some of the challenges we face is by involving local authorities, non-government organisation, the third sector, faith organisations, non-faith organisations, all recognising that the success of police, crime prevention will happen when we've all got a stake to play in that, and it's got to be bottoms up, led by the people. Their priorities must be the priorities that focus local policing, headed up by their local policing commander.
Ayoub?
I think it's a very important piece of legislation, actually, because it's allowed for a statutory obligation on the public sector organisations to actually sit around the table. And, I was privileged in being part of that, because in Birmingham we had a community safety partnership. And it's through partnership that we actually can make progress. And I know, for example, BISUBG has been very active in making sure that in terms of faith leadership and faith organisations which tie in to community safety and other elements, and certainly in terms of education, and when issues emerge which affect particular communities, and look, West Midlands is a massive area, and every community will have its own difficulties and problems and challenges, but it's through partnerships that we can actually identify the issues which are affecting people in a particular area, particular road, and deal with it collectively. So when we've had, for example, near the school, opposite the Gurdwara, where we've had the one hostel which is causing difficulties, the fact that there was a murder that took place there, the fact that there's a primary school next door to it, it allows partnerships to come around the table in order to address that. And it's valuable, and I would certainly, if elected as Police and Crime Commissioner, I would allow for that sort of work to continue, link into faith organisations and non-faith organisations, third sector voluntary organisations, and ensure that we can deliver results to the communities.
Thank you, Ayoub. As we are all well aware, especially in West Midlands, because we are talking about debating for West Midlands, we experience 5 times the riots or disturbance, whatever we call it, 80, 85, 90, October 05, and recently last year. What do you think, what was behind? Whose failure is this? My question to Derek.
I think all of those disturbances that took place over the period of time that you have actually shared have been caused for different reasons. I think what I would like to point at is the actual positive elements in spite of those disturbances that kept the West Midlands together. And that's about building relationships and positive engagements. In the midst of all of these disturbances, one of the things that cannot be overlooked is that fortunately, because of the good relationships that I have forged across the West Midlands, I called Babaji and others immediately to call meetings of faith and non-faith communities in a convent. And we issued a press release calling upon the area to cease from those disturbances in 2005. Again, in the disturbances in 2011, I called upon those same leaders and others. And to me, I feel what we should not overlook in all of this, in spite of the social problems and the social troubles that exist, we have a very vibrant, solid community whose voice is much more distinct than the voice of gloom, that would wish to see communities who have worked hard together for the harmony of the West Midlands broken by those voices that would want to disengage. That can only be built by genuine, honest, open relationships, working with local authorities, working with other non-government organisations, working across the faith sector and non-faith sector, bringing people together for the betterment of the actual region in which we live. So yes, there's been difficult times. Yes, those disturbances have been real. Yes, they've stretched and pulled at the fabric of our society, but they have not broken it. And that is because of relationships that I have invested in for many years, working in the heart of these communities.
Derek, how many years you've been a chairperson for the West Midlands Police
I've been
Committee?
the chair of the West Midlands Police Authority since 2009, but I've been a member of the Police Authority since 1999.
Thank you. Derek, you know, the disturbance as you mentioned, you know, the years back, and let us come back to the October 05. There was quite a bit loss, especially in Handworth ward as well, which is my ward. And some evidence been given to the police that time, the people who were responsible to break in, even from the footage from CCTV cameras. But these people never been punished. Why?
I can't comment on that because I don't know.
No, you were the chairperson. I'm asking.
No, not at the time. Not at the time.
Let us say one person. I'm saying if the people, you know, the local residents, they gave some evidence against anybody who committed a crime, who made a problem to them, but they never been, you know, they've been arrested, they never been punished. Other thing, at that time, I was on the street myself, and we've been told by the police and the ambulance, this area been declared no-go area. Why? Is that sort of the rate where they get back from the police?
Well, you need to be asking.
No, I'm asking because you are standing in an election.
Yeah, and I'm saying, Mr. Atwal, you're talking to me about an historical event. I cannot speak for the Chief Constable. I can only speak for the position of the police authority at the time.
Okay, fine.
And I wasn't the chair at the time, but I was a member of the authority and take full responsibility that we engaged with the community. We were out on the streets. I was out on the streets during those 2005 disturbances. I was on the streets with a lot of other members of the community trying to clear the streets from what was happening. I was actually there. I wasn't on the outside, I was there. And I recall what happened up in Handsworth Wood and the pubs and the areas. Yeah. I am saying to you, that is not because of the police authority, that's because of the policing that was taking place at the time. There were difficulties involved. I am not aware of who was charged or not charged, because that's a part of the judicial process and it's something that would need to be taken up, because that's independent. Who gets charged with a crime is not a police authority, but the commitment I would give to you around that is that the authority's involvement in engaging the community to try to maintain calm and harmony in that situation went beyond being a member of the authority, was about being a human citizen of that community at the time, and to a large degree those issues were dealt with.
Thank. I was on the street with the police myself.
Yes.
That what we've been told. It's not personal. We're talking, you know, we're talking about what did happen and what the local people suffer, you know. And anyway, it's the same question I'm asking to Matt Bennett.
Yeah,
yes. Well, I think Derek's perhaps a little bit too sanguine about some of the relations that exist within the West Midlands, and particularly within Birmingham, and the part that he and the police authority have played to improve things. If you ask me about the cause of the most recent riots, the ones I have some more direct experience in, I'll tell you what the cause was. It was basically people being opportunistic, deciding it was time to loot shops because they could get away with it. For many years, many of them were able to get things on credit, able to get trainers and TV screens on credit, and now they couldn't, and they got frustrated and they took advantage. That was the reason that it happened in the West Midlands and in Birmingham. But I was at a meeting in the community the next day after those 3 poor boys tragically died. And I saw the level of anger that was there, but also the mistrust that existed between the community and the police. Now, thankfully, Tariq Jahan spoke those words, and that's the real reason that things calmed down, because those words were spoken. Everybody took a step back and realised that enough lives had been lost, and that there had to be an end to violence. But I think what it really showed me was that when push came to shove, many communities didn't feel as if the police really were there for them. And there is that mistrust there. And I don't believe that Derek and Bob, who between them have been on the police authority for 38 years, have actually managed to address that fundamental question in any meaningful way. There needs to be a narrowing of the gap that exists between the police and ethnic minority communities. And I think 38 years, really, of trying and failing to narrow that gap, I think is enough.
Thank you. A question, your name been mentioned now, because you were involved in the authority.
Yeah, I think there's got to be 2 elements to this. The one is the short-term one, where the criminals need to be caught and they need to be punished, and there needs to be effective deterrence and protection for our communities. However, clearly there needs to be a longer-term aspect as well, because we're not going to be locking people up forever. They're going to be coming back, and one of the key things is to ensure that when they do come out on the streets, there's effective offender management to ensure they don't repeat such issues. But in the longer term, we've really got to look at some of the causes of these issues, and while I agree with Matt that a lot of this was purely opportunist criminality, there are key issues as to why our young people in particular were attracted to criminality, and there are wider issues which we all have a role in playing, and often giving our young people hope, giving them faith, giving them the fact that it isn't going to be the only way to make money is by selling drugs in our area, by turning to a life of crime. It's absolutely essential that we all work together to give people jobs, to ensure we have good youth services. People are able to participate in their community in a positive way, not just in a negative way. So I think we need to do that. Now, I do think that things have improved significantly since the 1980s and the riots we had there. The relationship between the police is much better. It does have some way to go, and I think 2 of the big changes I will be seeking to make, instead of just the police dealing with consultation and issues like the front desks one, most of the community felt they were just being marketed at. They weren't really being listened to. What we need to do is ensure it isn't just about a consultation exercise that's a PR job. We need to ensure that it is the community that's actually leading, and I will be transferring consultation to the new policing boards, which are community-led. And the policing boards themselves wouldn't be a question of just being listened to and perhaps not acted upon. They will be determining the priorities, they will be determining how to spend the money, and they will be ensuring that police are accountable back to local communities.
Thank you, please keep it short. The same question to Cath.
Can I just clarify one thing first?
No, you can clarify later on.
If it's just a small point, very small.
Go on.
Bob talked about young people and the riots. In fact, the majority of people that committed offences during the riots were over 18, and I think that's an important point to remember.
Okay, you think they are old, over 18?
The majority.
Very old. Okay,
yeah,
fine. That's fine.
I agree, absolutely. But they were young people when they turned to criminality. Okay. They didn't suddenly become criminals at the age of 18.
Okay, even they were some professional people as well. We know that, and even the young people yet under the age of 18. Let us not get into it. Cath, you are very local. Nice to know you were in hand, but because I spent all my life in hand, but you have a more experience there. What would you say that? Because I believe you experience that riots, time to time. Lot of business people, they lost their business.
Absolutely.
Some even in the larger doors, some people, the posts have been worn, and they lost their life. Will that keep carrying on like this? And will that be, the stop?
The one thing that has come out about the riots is that it has identified where the partnerships are very strong and where they're not so strong. I was down on Soho Road some weeks ago talking to business people, and they talked about the business community that was there, and some of the representative is very strong and some of it's not so strong. It is really, really important that support is given to improve businesses, to improve services to local people, and to improve employment prospects, because that's what holds communities together. So, and obviously the policing that goes with that is very important as well. But it is about partnership working, and within that, the elements or what's been said about young people is, for me, police officers need to be more engaged in schools. We need to be able to help young people become resourceful, confident members of communities. So there is a part to play in that in that sphere as well.
Thank you. Ayoub.
Yeah, I mean, can I say that this is one of the reasons why I say that people which go out and vote in this election really need to look at the candidates involved. I mean, Bob has been on the police authority for 27 years. And he stands under the Labour Party banner, but the reality is, when you look at the situations such as the riots, you've got to ask yourself one question. The jewellery quarter was heavily protected on that night, and yet other business areas were let down, and there wasn't strong policing at all. And when you ask about the criminality, well, I can tell you as a barrister and being present in Birmingham Crown Court, watching some of these individuals being prosecuted and being brought to justice, I was surprised to see quite a few individuals which had no previous convictions, which were employed and had a bright future. And they all received custodial sentences. But the reality is that when you see police watching people loot, standing back, guarding specific areas and not the whole community, then that's a failure. And somebody has to be held accountable. Now, if elected as Police and Crime Commissioner, that person will be held responsible, and no doubt any problems in the future, then people can decide at an election as to whether or not that person continues to stay in that post. But certainly in the recent riots, nobody has been held to account. And I think, we can have people standing for commissioner elections, but when you look at their track record and you make a choice, you have to bear all of those factors into account.
Thank you very much. Same question to you, sir.
I get very angry when I hear people talking about reasons or excuses why people have gone and rioted and looted. People work very hard to build businesses up. They work long, long hours. They put themselves on the line to do it. I've seen those people. I've been one of those people myself. And when you do that, and somebody who's not prepared to put in that same amount of effort and work comes along and just decides, I'm going to take what's yours. I'm not going to work for it. I've got no respect for you or your property or your work ethic. I'm going to come and take it. And then the police stand back and watch this happening. Everyone involved in the policing of that event has got to really ask themselves some questions, because it's unacceptable. If I were in control of that situation, the police would have come in early, they'd have come in hard, heavy and fair, and those riots would have been nipped in the bud early, and the people perpetrating it would have been prosecuted to the absolute maximum of the law, because they are a disgrace.
Everybody's saying it's nice, it's a fantastic theoretically, but practically it's a bit different. Recently, yesterday, I received a phone call from the person to whom I met, when the riot took place last year. He been, beaten up heavily in Handworth, and his family, and these small children, about 6 weeks old. And they said, they approached, the government announces, they will have compensation, so nothing did happen. Anyway, I'm not going to have a debate on it. I'm just putting to the beer. That's sort of the responsibility of the agency, either the police committee, either the police, whoever, even from top to bottom police officer, they are all responsible, because the ratepayer, they do pay the rates, and they are not running after the person, Mr. So-and-so responsible, not me. That's not right. I think this is absolutely wrong, unacceptable. The other question, I think partly it's been answered. How will you support small and micro business to prevent crime and disorder and support victims to rebuild their community business? Because always they've been said, yes, we will help, we will help. Either a new, the constable came, either the existing, whatever. When we have a meeting, we do that, but they never did it. Will these people will keep suffering, especially that part of the city in Birmingham, on West Midlands, Wolverhampton, West Bromwich, and there? And how we can stop it? Nobody answered it. How we will do this, we will do that. But have anybody delivered it so far? No. Can I ask you again?
Yeah. Back to my main policy plank, Bobby's on the beat. What I want to do is I want to get community police all around the areas, particularly into small shopkeepers, small business people, and they get to know each other. The relationship develops. That's not helping what has happened, but it is stopping that happening again, because the shopkeeper, the businessman, will know. They'll have the phone number of the Bobby on the beat. They'll know where these people are. They say, right, we've got an issue, we've got antisocial behaviour, we've got small-time vandalism and crooks, we've got whatever. We need someone on hand to come and look at this. And rather than waiting for an hour or even longer in some instances, by which time the damage is done, the loss is made and the money's down the pan, they come immediately and they deal with it.
May I ask, please keep your answers small, and we can keep asking more. Otherwise, I think it's too long, the people confused. Yes, Ayoub again.
Well, I mean, my key pledge to the communities, to businesses, is simply this, that if you want police to respond...
Can I interrupt you here? Not a pledge. I'm saying you're a local person.
Yes.
You've seen all the royal stuff.
Yes.
What do you think? Why?
The rights...
Not the promising,
Yes.
What would be the practicality?
Well, the practicality would be this. In relation to the rights, I made my position very clear that police did not go into the situation. They stood back and watched. It's a bit like firemen watching a fire in a house, not going inside. They're professionals. They're trained to deal with incidents.
So it means you're blaming the police?
Of course. I'm saying that the police should have gone in. And I'm also blaming people like Bob Jones who sat here, because they were on the police authority. And so they have to be held accountable. But what would I do? Well, I've already made known that if, on a practical level, we had just general in future, if people know, criminals know, that police will get there quicker. When somebody picks up that phone and rings 999, they know that that target of 15 minutes is not there, but a target of 5 minutes is set. That will prevent and deter criminals, because they will know that police will get there quicker. It will protect properties and individuals, because they will know that police will get quicker, and it'll reassure the community. I'm the only candidate that has made that pledge, and I'm saying it's a practical pledge. It will be delivered because I can demonstrate how it's possible. So the reality is that nobody can get under the causes of riots, but when something like that begins, police need to be there, and they need to be professional, and they need to be dealing with it first-hand, not sitting back and saying, well, actually, we don't want to get involved in that, or, it's possibly too dangerous.
Okay.
People are put in, dangerous situations to train professionals.
My understanding, you was in a position that time, 05.
In 05?
05, you was some sort of position from the city council, were you? Cabinet member?
No, I was a councillor for Aston.
But you were
just like you were a councillor for Hannon.
No, hold on. Okay, I might be wrong, okay? You become a cabinet member. Which year did you become a cabinet member?
In 2008.
Okay, fine. My apology, okay? I thought you was, a local...
It may have been 2007, but I think it was certainly
even I'm saying, happily married, the party was in the forward. Okay, let us move on. You've been blamed by Ayoub. Can you answer this?
Yeah, I mean, so in terms of the police tactics in the West Midlands, like every other force that was faced with the riots, they fell back on traditional training, which was really to cope with things like protecting the G8. So effectively they were trying to stop the rioters accessing places. The rioters didn't want to press against the police. They just were happy to dissolve and riot and loot wherever they could. So the whole tactics weren't working. I think West Midlands deserve credit. After an initial period, they were the first police force in the country to realise those traditional tactics were wrong. And they changed their tactics and started doing snatch squads, aggressively attacking the looters and the rioters, and you will notice that we had the highest level of arrests on the Monday compared to the Metropolitan, compared to the other areas. And it actually took the Metropolitan Police actually working out that they needed to change tactics to similar ones to the West Midlands that started sorting the problem out in London. I do think the problem with it is that takes a lot more police officers, because police officers get isolated. They need to have more police officers to back up. And unfortunately, the government proposals, where we're looking to lose 1,250 police officers in this country, 15,000 across the country, is going to make those tactics more difficult to deploy in the future. So our community is at greater risk. And unfortunately, Ayoub's party, despite offering 3,000 extra police officers at the general election, have actually voted through a position where this country is going to lose 15,000 police officers.
Thank you. Yes, you, please. You want to say something on it?
I'm
not going to mainly it, but
I think I addressed it a little bit before, but I mean the arguments about numbers of police officers and tactics and so on and so forth, it just shows that we need a new approach. I'm sorry, the handling of the riots wasn't right.
That's fine, Matt. Yeah.
Well, I would agree the handling of the riots wasn't right. I find it slightly strange that the police were unclear on what tactics to use. I mean, it's fairly clear that the rioters weren't going to be pushing against them, that they were looting shops. I heard a police officer quoted on the Monday as saying they had to just observe the shops being looted, because if they attempted to arrest people and take them down the station, it would tie up resources. Which again, you have to wonder, what are the police for if they're just there to observe crime rather than to tackle it? It amazed me it took them so long to work out that the tactics were wrong, and they didn't try and change them on the night rather than having a meeting about it the next morning. So it was too slow, it wasn't good enough, and there is something in there, in what we've been talking about before, about the police culture. I was talking to a lady earlier who told me she was speaking to a police officer who and they were watching her son's bike being stolen. And he was radioing it through and didn't wish to tackle it himself. The police culture is one of box ticking, of saying this is my job and I do this, and we haven't got a proper kind of mobile, flexible police force that deals with problems that the public need them to deal with at the time. There is too much of the box ticking, health and safety culture that Labour introduced.
Thank you, Bob.
Could I?
Okay.
I'd like to actually commend the Conservative. I'd like to challenge Matt's position. I would commend the comments of the Conservative Home Secretary, who said, if you want to see what a Conservative Police and Crime Commissioner will do, look at the Metropolitan Police. Now, during the riots, it took them 4 days to get to the position that the West Midlands was in. In terms of paying back compensation, they were months behind the West Midlands. Matt's talking about saving police stations. The Metropolitan Police is closing half the front desks. 4 times as many police stations are going to close to the public than we've actually got. They're going to sack 1,000 police community support officers. So what I would suggest on all these things, people should not just listen to what people are saying, but look at what people actually do.
Well,
thank you, Bob. Actually, please. Actually, okay, I'm coming to you.
Thank you.
Actually, the police station been saved by the Sangat TV and the supporters, not by the police.
That is very true.
We did it.
Yes.
Always there, and some other. We all should thanks.
You stood up against the police authority. Well done.
Okay.
Can I just say
fine.
that in Sangat TV?
Please, I'm coming to you. Okay, fine. Because even when they said that the police and myself, I interviewed on Sangat TV a police officer and on a city college, and asked, was the police officer, the police was aware that going to be happened on Soho Road? They said no, we wasn't aware, but we were aware it's going to be happen in city centre. Yes. Okay, next day, and a police officer, the different police officer, I asked the police officer in this Bromwich meeting. The officer said no, we wasn't aware at all. So where must be something wrong? Ratepayer, they paying their rates, okay, for the police or for the committee, the councillor, whoever they are paying it. I'm coming to you, Derek. But now the thing is, main thing is how the public can be protected. Yes. Okay, Cath, you said you want to say something.
I do. One of the really important things to take from the riots and the relationships with the communities is not to always look back, but to look forward on how we can improve things. Now, there were a number.
But Cath, we need to learn. We need to learn from the past.
I completely agree, and that's part of what I'm saying. It is about learning, but it's about taking that learning forward. There were a lot of recommendations made about how the police could improve, how they could do things differently, the equipment they needed. All of those recommendations need to be delivered alongside with how the communications between the police and the communities improve, and that partnership improves. Now, that has got to be a long-term process. It can't be just done when things are critical. People have got to have that partnership and that friendship for a long, long time. So when things get bad, there's strength in being together.
Cath, thank you. But I think the last riot was fifth time, you know, what I've seen it since 1968. But still, last 4, now the 5, haven't we learned anything? This is the question from the public. Now, I will come back to there. We will come back to in this one if we got any time. How will you ensure that the police workforce represent the population profile both in the police forces as a whole and through to the grade? Derek, can I ask you please, because you were the chairperson of there, better responsible, to look into this side, not personal, you know, to look into it.
Well, I'll answer the question in the way that I wish to do that.
Okay, that's fine.
Because the reality is it's going to be very difficult. You will not have a reflective community police service of the community for a long while. Why? Because they've not been able to recruit police officers into the service for the last 3 to 3.5, 4 years. It will be in April 2013. It takes about 16, 17 months when someone is recruited to go through the system ready to serve in the way they would like to. So we're going to have some real problems going forward. However, the will has got to be that those who are in senior leadership positions is where that reflection needs to take place. And unless the police service reflects the community, it does not support the message of local policing. Local policing is not just about police officers and the complexity of it. It's the people having confidence that at all levels of the police service, it understands and feels the journeys of those communities that it reflects. It is essential. Hence why across the nation, policing leadership at PCC levels ought to also reflect the community. And this Police and Crime Commissioner election will not reflect the communities of the country. So it will call into question the confidence that communities have in a system that has failed it in the past. And if we're not careful, we'll fail it again in the future. And so for me, we need an honest and an open debate about what is it that we want out of policing, and do we really want policing at PCC level and at police levels to genuinely reflect the needs of the community. Final point, the community of the West Midlands, its demographics is changing. Therefore, it needs that change to be reflected in those who serve in official public office as well. And that is key to what needs to happen. The West Midlands has got to be a region that's looking forward and not looking backward. Thank you.
Thank you. So it means, hold on a second, you please. Wait for your time. Derek, you think the police, I'm sure they have a equality policy. Don't you think they implement it?
But it's more than equality.
Okay.
It's far more than equality. It's about the will of leadership. Equality is one thing. Everybody, there's a song that says, everyone has an equal right to live and be free, irrespective of colour or creed. That's a statement, but how you live that out is a different reality.
No, so it means it's not being implemented properly.
No, I believe West Midlands Police, I can be critical of them, but one has to be fair and honest, are committed to equality and diversity. I believe they are. The issue, however, is the leadership that's needed to deliver that has to be born from within the organisation to reflect the external of the organisation. And you need the critical mass in order to do that. But so it's about leadership.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you. Now your turn.
Well, thank you. I mean, 2 points. Firstly, in relation to what Bob said about commending the West Midlands Police after the riots, I mean, this is precisely why I say that when people go out there to the polls, they must look at the candidates which are standing. You ask the average individual, the average businessman, the average resident, which had personal dealings, or like you said, Councillor Saab, that you were on the street and you saw it happen. What was the view of those individuals in relation to how the police reacted? And you will find that they were not pleased. In fact, they were terrified, upset. And yet Bob Jones sits here and tells the viewers that West Midlands Police should be commended, and there was issues in relation to tactics. Well, look, it's not good enough. The person who's going to stand as Police and Crime Commissioner, the people need to have confidence in that individual. And if you have people sitting here saying, well, that was a good job, when people know that it wasn't, well, it begs the question as to who should be voted in. But in relation to diversity within the West Midlands Police Force, I've spoken to many police officers of all backgrounds. And, you know, it is a fact, whether we like it or not, that officers from the BME backgrounds feel that there is a glass ceiling. And, you know, that's them speaking, not me.
Keep it short, please.
Absolutely.
I've got to cover
and so if I was elected, I would look into that and see how we could seriously review and ensure that we have diversity, not only at the Bobby level, but at all levels, because I think communities need to be...
My question was the whole grade. Bob, I think you are very famous. You know, he's always, you know, he put a question on you. That's why
I'm very happy for people to take Ayoub's advice and look at people's track record. And answering your question on this specific one, I was on the Stephen Lawrence implementation group that actually set the strategy to increase the number of members of the ethnic minority communities to ensure that our police force did look like the community they served, which I think is a major factor in the community having confidence in the police force. And we did make considerable progress as doubling it until, as Derek indicates, we had the problem of the fact that we weren't able to recruit. I've been committed for some time to restart recruitment. That's not to say we're going to increase the number of police officers, regretfully, but we will be able to start recruitment to replace those that are retiring naturally. And I think that gives us an opportunity to make further progress. And clearly it isn't just about new recruits, it should also be about selection, promotion, etc. Again, progress is being made. We do need to look at those again. I think we want to make sure there is absolutely fair and open criteria for ensuring that the best possible police officers are promoted, and I'm sure if we've got that, we will see the force at every single level looking like the community that it is serving.
You've got 27 years.
Thank you, please.
Thank you, please.
I also to audience, don't interrupt to each other. Gentlemen,
I think that the recruitment from individual areas and individual communities will increase when people start to trust the police force, when they get to know and they think, oh, I'd like to be part of this, this is something that I believe in. That will happen. I don't believe in quotas, positive or affirmative action or whatever the new terminology is. As far as I'm concerned, every policeman could be black, brown, pink, purple. I don't care what they are as long as they're the best. I want the best people to thrive and do well, and the people will come forward when they've got trust that that will be allowed. Under my leadership, that would happen.
So it means at the present, especially we're talking about the ethnic minority, they don't believe the police? They don't trust?
Well, you can't generalise, but some people don't trust the police.
That's fine. I'm just putting answer, you know, I'm going to just pick up from your conversation. Matt?
Well, I think Bob said he doubled his group doubled the ethnic minority percentage in the police. So I think the current figure is 6%, so he's doubled it from 3%. Now that's not particularly great progress, I have to say. If you start from a very low base, it's very easy to double. It's only been a few years there's been a recruitment freeze. Derek and Bob are quite happy to blame it on the recruitment freeze, but actually years and years of minuscule progress before that is entirely their responsibility. So you have to ask, if they haven't managed it in the 38 years they have between them, how are they going to manage it now? The answer is they're not, because they generally are a rubber stamping operation for whatever the police want. The will isn't there to make the real changes. It's not just about recruitment though, it's the culture within the police. A recent report to West Midlands Police showed that ethnic minority police officers are 5 times more likely to be investigated for corruption within West Midlands Police than white officers. Why is that? I don't think it's because ethnic minority officers are 5 times more likely to be corrupt. I certainly don't think that.
We're coming to this question later on. Please, I've got a question. No, I got a question. I will give you time on this one, okay? I got a question on it.
Okay.
But let me carry on the question I have lined up.
It is the culture is the point.
Yeah, that's fine.
That has to change.
That's fine. I got a question. That's very well, will be asked. Cath, yourself. Please keep it short.
I shall do. Much shorter than these gentlemen.
Yes. Because they are more politician, they believe to speeches.
That's right. They'll talk around it. I'll just get to the point. The point is that recruitment of police officers will not be done in the short term because there won't be the money for it. If members of the community want to step forward and become special constables, that's an absolute golden opportunity to share their life skills with the police and their own community, to be part of improving and also to change the culture of policing. So you do get that mix at a very early stage. So there is a real opportunity there for community members to make that change in their local area.
Thank you very much. Now my question is, due to the government cuts, community safety funding in the West Midlands will fall from nearly 4 million to by 2012 and 1.6 million. How will you ensure that community remains safe? My question to Big Brother of happily married government and central government, Big Brother Matt.
Big Brother, I don't particularly like the term Big Brother.
Well, Liberal Democrat, so the little brother,
you don't have
the Big
you
Brother.
don't have brothers married to each other. I think it's a slightly confused metaphor there. But
so it means marriage for convenience.
Yes.
What would you say?
Absolutely. Well, no, of course, you have reducing budgets. I won't bore your viewers with the reason for the reducing budgets. Suffice to say, we all know what happened prior to 2010. The problem...
It's happened since 2010 as well.
But we know what happened to the public finances prior to 2010. The problem is you have less money. How do you make communities safer? Well, what you do is you focus on the things that are really, really working. I am not prepared to believe for a minute that there was no room for trimming out waste, trimming out fat within that community safety money. There are a lot of officers who are very well paid within community safety partnerships who I'm quite sure we can do without. What you have to do is focus on the things that are really working. And when you look at the things that are really working, really giving the results, you find you can make much better use of the money you have, even in a reducing budget, to improve safety. So I'll ensure I review everything, not looking at whether people are satisfied particularly, but look at whether it's actually bringing in the results. And if things are bringing in the results, then you continue the investment and prioritise it on that way. And I'm quite sure we can contain and continue community safety within that budget.
Please, I'm requesting everybody, keep it short. Not the speeches, just answer,
Well,
please. Because
short.
quite a
I'm
bit,
so sorry.
quite a bit question. I mean, I like to be fair with our viewer. Now my question to the younger brother, happily married.
I thought you probably
happily married.
come to me. Because
No. Because the central government is happily married.
Well, can I say this? First of all, we know that the last Labour government put us in a massive debt crisis. Now, there's two things that people can do. Either you can borrow more, in which case your interest rates will go sky high, 16% in historical times. And I promise you, if that was to happen, then people would lose businesses, people would lose homes. So the cuts which are happening because of necessity. Now, how would you make communities safe with the budgets? Well, you can do one thing, such as what Bob is saying, the Labour Party candidate, scaremonger, let people know that it'll be unsafe, or you can be strategic about it and try to deliver results. Now, I firmly believe that there are efficiency savings that that can be made. You know, in the back office, communications department, HR department, those can be shared services with other public sector organisations. But also, I believe in preventative measures. When you work out that taxpayers have paid £40 million to two families which have caused criminality in this region, then you will appreciate that spending a small fraction of that at an early opportunity could prevent that. So it's about working together and making sure that we detect early intervention programs and implement them. Whereas you can listen to Bob, and I'm sure he's going to say, well, cuts, cuts, cuts. But the reality is he has to work within that budget.
Bob, you're very famous again. Ayoub, I think, really like you to pinpoint. Come on now. You answer it.
Yeah, I mean, so certainly one of the issues isn't just about the 20% cuts far too fast that have choked off the growth since 2010 and increased the deficit. It's not just about that general economic argument. It's also about the way they've been distributed. West Midlands is taking 3 times the cuts of the lowest crime area in the country, Surrey. And to add insult to injury, as well as already taking 3 times the level of cuts, according to the government's own formula, we should be getting £25 million a year on average extra to meet the basic needs for policing in this area. And the reason why we can't, and this is quoting the last Police Minister, Nick Herbert, it would be too damaging to areas like Surrey that are getting £6 million more than the formula said they needed. Even if we gained the 25 million and Surrey lost the 6 million, we'd still be taking a bigger cut than Surrey, but we would be able to keep hundreds more police officers on our streets.
Thank you. Derek, please.
In relation to the issue of crime and crime reduction, I would be creating a West Midlands Crime Reduction Board that would work across the West Midlands, looking about how this work has been done. I think we need to first of all commend a lot of those organisations out there who have been working extremely hard under difficult circumstances to make things work. It's how best we use the limited resources that we have to underpin that excellent work. I do believe there's duplication. I genuinely believe things can be done in different ways and addressing some of the needs. But we've got to be innovative. We will not get extra money coming from somewhere. That's the reality. But I believe we can harness the resources and innovation and cut out duplication to make the work that's being done underpinned with more longevity to it.
Thank you.
Families all over the country have had to tighten their belts. They've had to work on smaller budgets. There is no reason whatsoever why we can't still provide excellent service on lower budgets. Businesses have to do it. It's happening all over the place. We've just got to get realistic, stop moaning and get on with it.
Cath?
This is a real opportunity to understand what value for money really means, and also to be creative on how we use it. One of the areas that I'm particularly concerned about is victims and witnesses, and how we make them the centre of the criminal justice system, so the process is not applied to them. So something that could be looked at in particular to that is providing a victim support service very early on in the reporting process. So when a crime happens and it's reported to the police, that a service takes on that victim support and victim advocate very early on, allowing the police then to move on and do something else.
Thank you. My next question is, Andrew Mitchell was forced to resign following the comment he made to the police. How would you have dealt with the matter if it had happened in the West Midlands, not in a London and 2-line map?
I would have ensured that he apologised, which he did. I would have ensured he spoke to the police force locally and did a few perhaps sort of penance visits. But beyond that, I think we just accept that people make mistakes. The apology was accepted by the officer and we move on. It really was not as big an issue as the Labour Party and the media wanted us to believe. Everyone makes mistakes sometimes. As long as they recognise it, apologise, then we move on.
Thank you.
His behaviour was rude, arrogant, snobbish and outrageous towards people who do a much more important role and job than he's ever done in his life. He should have had his resignation in the next day, and if it wasn't there, Mr Cameron should have sacked him.
Cath?
Absolutely, his behaviour was was unacceptable. I think how it developed after that, though, it then became an issue of integrity. He never really said what his conversation was for the police officers. The police officers made a record of it, and then all of a sudden it became a challenge about who was telling the truth. I think if he'd been honest and open and had that shared conversation very early on, he would have found himself in a very different position than he does today.
Thank you. You?
Well, I mean, totally unacceptable behaviour, but I also asked the question whether the police acted properly, because my understanding is that you can't ride a bicycle on a footpath, and if he was trying to go out on a road, why was he told to go on a footpath? But his behaviour was unacceptable. But one has to also ask the question about the integrity of the police officers and why say what they did.
Thank you. Derek?
I think the situation is that the MP knew he did wrong. He apologised and he was bang out of order. He knew that. But when you mix politics with policing, that's what you get. Because it moved away from the issue really of what was said to the issue of the government's doing this to the police don't like it, and the thing spiralled out and became nasty. I don't think the police got credit out of it. I don't think the politicians got credit out of it. I think it didn't come over well to anyone. He should not have said what he said. He was wrong to have said what he said. He issued an apology, and to me, it was played upon. And the danger in all of this to me is that we ought to treat every human being with respect, irrespective of who they are. We are all human beings of a planet Earth that have the right to decency, respect. And if that was shown to the officers in the first place, it wouldn't have led to that. So, you know, we need to learn from that. Treat people with respect.
Thank you, Derek. I request again, please keep your answer short. Yes,
Yeah.
Bob.
I believe it's absolutely essential that everyone is treated fairly and equally, whether they're the rich or the powerful, whether they're the ordinary person in the street. I think this incident raises serious issues in that regard. I personally think his behaviour was totally unacceptable from day one, and given his position as a cabinet member, reacting to the people who were there to protect him, I felt he should have resigned immediately, and I think it was compounded by the fact that he refused to give a statement as to what he actually did say, which obviously implied that the police officers were giving a false statement. I think it was totally unacceptable. I also find it very strange from Matt, who is saying he's going to have zero tolerance of antisocial behaviour. Well, it looks like it's zero tolerance for us plebs, but if it's a cabinet member, it's forgive and forget.
Thank you very much. My next question is, the West Midlands Police is predicted by HMIC to lose over 1,000 police officers by 2015. That will you do insurance that order to maintain and criminal are caught? Matt, Conservative candidate.
Well, we have to work more efficiently, clearly. We have to put police officers in the right places at the right times. In the city centre, Birmingham city centre in the morning, I often see 2 or 3 police officers guarding bus lanes. That's not a productive use of police time. I'd like to see them in the areas where antisocial behaviour is at its greatest. I want to look at where we're spending money and we don't need to, where we're keeping assets that we don't need to. I don't see why we need to keep Lloyd House in the centre of Birmingham. We can sell that and keep police stations open, move those resources to other areas, because there's a great deal of property that the police own. So you have to be much more intelligent about the way you manage existing resources, and it is manageable to keep the public safe even on a reducing budget.
Matt, we all talk about the city centre, fine. How about the rest of the main street?
Precisely my
because
point.
I agree what you're saying, okay? I'm not denying what you're saying. What I mean, you know, always we think the police protect the city centre, Jolly Quarter. How about the other streets, Soho Road? But the majority are ethnic minority running their business, and they're running by the family from small children to the elderly people. And they suffer more. Even the insurance company, they don't want to insure them anymore. So they should have protected everybody, not just the city centre. Okay, we will come back to it.
I completely agree.
Yes, Ayoub.
Well, I mean, I said that at the outset when the riots took place. I said that, you know, the police was too busy protecting the jewellery quarter as opposed to other areas where calls have been made. But can I say that, you know, for my part, this post carries a salary of £100,000. Of all candidates, I'm the only candidate that has said I would reduce my salary down by half and reinvest over 4 years, that's £200,000, reinvest that into policing and community projects.
How much you will reduce to?
By half.
By half.
By half. So I would take 50,000, whereas every other candidate is more than happy to take.
So you will give the 50,000 to Sangat TV?
Well, I can't say all to I can't say all to Sangat TV, but if there's meaningful projects, then, well, I mean, I think it'd be wrong for me to say that. But what I will do is reinvest that £200,000 in community projects. And I think, look, we're asking the country to tighten their belt. I think £100,000 public taxpayer money is a little too much for this post. I think if you are really caring and passionate about serving the community, then you also have to make that cut. And I'm conscious about the fact that I would do that.
Could you please keep it somewhere.
But I'll give others opportunity to answer the question as well.
Please, thank you very much. Derek, you want to say something on it?
I can't even remember the question now. I would like to be refreshed.
Never mind. Okay, it's not. Best Midlands Police is predicted by HMIC to lose over 1,000 police officers.
No, I think on that is, if the 20% cuts over the 4 years go through as they would, that is a possibility. The issue, though, is that we are not in a position, because police officers are not employed in the same way. So we cannot make police officers redundant. So when we're talking about cuts, in reality, we're talking about cuts to police staff, who, in my view, have been hammered far too much. And if I was elected as Police and Crime Commissioner, would lift immediately compulsory redundancy for staff, and I will keep the present strength that the West Midlands has at the moment right through at least for 2 years, depending on what the government tax
keep it short, your answer
would be.
Okay. Bob, you want to say something on it?
Yes, I was the outgoing Chair of Finance of the Police Authority, leading on the strategy to dealing with the cuts, and we are on target to make the reductions by the next financial year, which enables us to do things like recruiting. I think we will have to continue to look for greater efficiencies, greater collaboration with other forces. Issues like we have a number of expensive leases on office buildings in the centre of Birmingham. I would intend to give those up and use our reserves to move people out into offices and police stations that are owned by the police authority, which will save us considerable amount of money which can be reinvested in other areas. So I think there's a whole series of strategies, but currently those strategies are actually working. There is a danger if they are disrupted and not maintained, our financial position will get even worse.
Thank you very much. Cath,
thank you.
Keep it short, please. I know you do.
I will do. Part of what must happen is that we need to deliver the right services by the right resources who are in the right place at the right time. It's no good having officers speeding across West Midlands and getting somewhere and then not having the right skill base to deal with the job. So we need to understand what the service delivery component is about and match it.
Thank you very much. My next question to you, because you're the first time having it, antisocial behaviour is a major issue in the West Midlands. What will you do to ensure that victims are dealt with quickly and properly?
Well, that comes back to a really basic issue about neighbourhood policing. Neighbourhood officers and PCSOs are core to tackling antisocial behaviour. You don't get youngsters travelling across the West Midlands to engage in antisocial behaviour. They are part of the fabric of the local communities that they live in. So we need to understand who the people are, what they're doing out on the street, and have a proper, robust approach to dealing with them, so they're dealt with once, they understand the jeopardy it's in, and they cease causing trouble.
Thank you. Matt, keep it short. I'm running out of the time. We're nearly end of the...
I'll try my best.
No speech, please.
I've already said I want a zero tolerance approach to antisocial behaviour. Tougher policing, cracking down hard on street drinking, vandalism, graffiti. And I will give PCSOs more powers which they don't have at the moment but can do by law to tackle these things. The West Midlands has one of the least powerful PCSOs in the country. We have the ability to give them more power. I say do it so we can then free up more resource for police officers to do other things.
I'm going to be super efficient and super quick. Bobby's on the beat is the way to answer this question, and the one that I didn't get to answer before, all people who've lived in business in the real world outside of this bubble of the police authority and whatever know you can cut back, and you can cut back on spending, you can still do a job well.
Well, I mean, antisocial behaviour is a massive problem. Certainly,
no speech, please.
Yeah, when you go onto Soho Road, I was going to say this. Well, I was going to say young people causing problems on the high street is a significant problem. I would encourage police officers patrolling, even if they're patrolling in singular units, but they need to be there. And if you patrol in singular units, you can get bigger coverage, and therefore communities can be reassured.
Thank you. I think I have to cut both of you down, for this question now. My next question, because I have to move fast, please keep it very short. What is your view on the fact that if you are a BME officer, you are 5 times more likely to be disciplined or the subject to an investigation for corruption? Yes, you read.
As I started to say earlier, I don't believe it's because BME officers are more likely to be corrupt. I believe it's because they're less likely to be given the benefit of the doubt or have friends higher up. There is a cultural change that needs to happen. It hasn't happened in the time that my friends over there have been on the police authority. These are changes that simply will not happen if these two are elected next week.
This is one of those extremely rare occasions when I can honestly say I agree with Matt.
Oh, that's good. Are you helping each other?
No.
Okay, Ayoub. No, I'm asking you.
All right, okay. I've got to answer the question. I'm not going to give a speech, but I think the reality is it's an issue which I will address if I'm elected as Police and Crime Commissioner. I don't think 27 years of Bob has helped in it, and he shouldn't be elected because of it.
Okay, Bob. Again?
I mean, the research was commissioned by West Midlands Police Force and Greater Manchester Force because there was consciousness this was an issue that needed to be resolved, and this is part of the process of attempting to resolve it. There does seem to be considerable evidence to suggest it is in the attitude of managers. We need to ensure that managers feel confident to deal with everybody equally. There seems to be some suggestion that where it is a white officer, quite often it's headed off at the pass, informal words have gone before it gets to a critical situation, while in BME the community, they deal with it by the book. That needs to stop. We want to make sure that managers are trained to ensure that everyone is treated equally in the force.
But Bob, we've seen in the media, quite many times, the officer of BME, ethnic minority, let us say, clarify a bit more, and they've been taken, that way, and later on they clear their name. Why it's keep happening? Why? And we're saying, yes, shouldn't be, but who will stop it?
Well, part of the process is we have actually commissioned more research because the previous research told us about the nature of the problem. It didn't tell us the details of why it was happening. I speculated on one reason as to why it's happening, but we do need to actually get to the bottom of this. But it is a factor that we do need to have clear evidence of not just what is the problem, but try and find out what the solution is to try and rectify it. I've speculated that one of the key factors is the attitude of managers. They need to be trained to be able to be dealt with in a completely open way so they have the confidence to treat every single member of the police force in a completely equal way.
But Bob, you talk about the training. I'm sure in West Midlands quite a bit ethnic minorities are visible, including the Sikh community. The training, I went myself in a city centre near to the council a couple of years back. The police officer approached me, "Are you wearing a kirpan?" I said, "Yes." "Oh, why not? You are not You are not allowed." I said, "Why not? Ask your senior officer." But that officer didn't bother. I won't name it, okay? Yeah. I'm not complaining. I'm just putting to the rest of other young people, majority young people are affected with this. Why? Why they are not trained? If they are not trained, why they've been given a job in such that sort of the city?
Well, newer officers were being trained to be much more aware of the cultural traditions of all our communities. And as you're aware, I was involved in Wolverhampton when I was Chair of Education in negotiating the return of a child to education who had been expelled for wearing a kirpan. And we introduced a new protocol along with the Gurdwaras and churches to make sure that schools felt confident about doing that. And that was incorporated in training at schools. We need to have a similar approach. We have had a similar approach, but clearly with 4 years of non-recruitment, many of the officers we've got are not ones that had that new initial training.
Okay,
we need to actually look at ways of expanding it, but it also needs to become part of selection, promotion, management training, because the issue is with the supervisory officers, not just the ordinary officers.
But Bob, you were responsible, and also the director was responsible, with the due respect to both, not a personal, I'm talking about the responsible personalities. Because suppose if you elected, I'm coming to the directorate, if you elected, if any officer do the same behave, what would you do?
Well, clearly if any officer behaves inappropriately, they need to be dealt with and be held accountable to the community. However, what we want to make sure is they're all treated fairly, they're all treated justly. Now, I do think that the research indicates that that isn't happening at the moment. How are we going to rectify it? I think the issue is with the people taking the disciplinary action. They need to be made aware of the different issues. They need to be made confident that they can treat everyone equally, and they need to make sure that everybody is either given plenty of advice in beforehand to steer them away from these particular issues, or that when it is happening, they need to ensure that the disciplinary process is adhered to absolutely fairly, regardless of background.
Okay, give it to Derek. Derek, my question to you, lot of people, especially locally, I mean in West Midlands, the ethnic minority, they complain, and I agree with them, they've, in highly percentage, they've been stop and search. Why? From ethnic minority.
Yeah, because I'll get back to the point. I live it. I feel it. This ain't about a theory. This is what I feel. This is what I live. I live in that reality. I have to actually give police leadership in that reality. But when I look around me, what do I see? The issue for me is, it's all well and good everybody talking about this issue. Most of the people involved in this have never experienced it. They don't actually know what it feels like. They only talk about it. I know what it feels like, and it is not right. Police.
I'm asking, if you elected, what would you do? My question is this, very short, because we're running out, only 5 minutes left.
But what would I do? I would require the police to clearly give evidence as to why stop and search has taken place in a particular area of a community that is not intelligence led. Because the new airwave systems that they have now will improve that and make it more possible to have evidence-based intelligence.
Thank you, Derek. Cath, what would you see on that?
What I would say is that I will reintroduce the recording process around stop and search. Not to make it over bureaucratic, but to make sure that there's an understanding of why that search, that stop and account has taken place. And use the information then with a community forum to review, to make sure that there is satisfaction around those issues. If there are occasions where the same person is being stopped more than 3 times, that they have an appeal process to go to the inspector or the superintendent of the local area. So it can be discussed why these stops and search or stop and account is taking place. So there's some real connection there between the community and understanding why it's important for their safety, and for the police in making sure that they're using their powers appropriately.
Thank you. I have to move on now. Sangat TV provides programming for the BME communities. What are your views on EDL marches in Birmingham? How will you ensure we have peace in multicultural city like Birmingham and other cities around?
Right. The EDL as a party do their marching and do their protesting to cause disruption and violence and hate in communities. Having said that, what makes Great Britain great is the fact that there is a freedom of speech, there is a freedom of protest. So even though people don't like what the EDL stand for and they don't like what other organisations might stand for, they do have that right to protest and freedom of speech. And I would defend that. However, and I do say a big however, there is a process where together with the Chief Constable through the Home Secretary, banning orders can be applied for. And that is the process that needs to be applied to that party.
Thank you, Matt.
I'd support any banning order for the EDL. I am completely in favour of freedom of speech, and if somebody wanted to make a peaceful protest expressing whatever ridiculous or outrageous or hateful views they wish to, I would have no problem with it. But the EDL don't come and make a peaceful protest. They come deliberately to incite violence. They want people to come and fight them. They do everything they can to encourage people to come and fight them. We have enough evidence to show that. So I would have no problem supporting any banning order, because we know that violence would ensue, always does ensue, when the EDL come to town.
Thank you, Matt. Yes, sir.
We've experienced the EDL in Dudley. They've cost us millions of pounds in lost business. All they want is a fight. They have no justification. I do everything I can to try and stop the EDL coming to the West Midlands.
Ayoub?
Yeah, I mean, I've made my position very clear. EDL would not be welcome in the West Midlands region if I was elected. You know, this is a very serious matter as far as I'm concerned, because it's only a moment of time before somebody actually gets injured very seriously or killed even. And, you know, they don't differentiate between religion. They look at, you know, BMEs as far as I'm concerned. And I think, you know, I would go beyond just banning orders. I would implement dispersal orders to prevent even a static protest.
Thank you. Derek?
I think at the heart of this, one has to look at not the EDL as the EDL, but what does the EDL's values expose? And anyone that exposes values that want to create community disharmony and break that type of thing ought to be challenged. So you cannot make decisions on a specific group. It's what that group represents, because there'll be other groups that will replace them. And what you're going to do, where freedom of speech is required, it should be respected. It's where that group, organisation, institution, whatever you call them, break the law. That's where the issue comes in.
Thank you, Bob.
I would support a ban on any organisation that solely comes to the West Midlands to provoke religious hatred, to provoke racial hatred, to stir up violence, and the EDL clearly meets that particular definition, so I would support it. I also think I would be pressing for, if they can get round the law by having static demonstrations, I would insist they are static demonstrations. As too many times we have seen the police protecting the EDL and moving it along so it looks like a march. If it's a static demonstration, it should remain a static demonstration.
Okay, in 30 seconds, each of you, starting from on the right, tell why a viewer vote for you, from you, sir.
Okay. If you vote for me on the 15th of November, the change starts the next day. We start to make the police more visible, accountable, and more open and fair to all. It's a big opportunity. I encourage you all to get out there and vote, and let's make a change together.
Matt?
I'm the candidate who can actually bring real change. The police authority has been a cosy consensus for years and years and years. Bob and Derek have been part of that, and we've heard today some of the failures and lack of change they've managed to bring in. I represent every single person in this community, every single person in the West Midlands, and ensure policing works for them. I won't be just nodding through whatever the police want using my rubber stamp.
Yes, Cath.
I offer a unique set of skills and abilities. I know the strengths and the weaknesses of the police. I know their environment and culture. So that means I can be effective for you from day one. What I would like you to do is vote and keep party politics out of policing and vote to put experience in, which is through me, because I will be the voice of the people.
And you?
I think that I should be elected because I have the relevant experience. If you want to have police respond quicker, my pledge is they will get to you within 5 minutes in a 999 emergency situation, not 15 as it currently is. But I think this is not a political post. I think you need to look at track records. I have a track record, and people like Bob, which have been on the police authority for 27 years, if they get elected as a Labour politician, they will just rubber stamp everything through.
Derek?
I have 11 years of experience on the authority, 3 as chair. I've been there with you, you've seen me. I'm in the community day after day, night after night, in a number of different situations. I'm not just here for your vote. You know where to find me, and I've always known where to find me. I offer myself to you because I've been accountable to this community, and I will still be accountable tomorrow.
Thank you, Bob.
I have the track record of making real change in policing. I have the track record of actually serving our community and standing shoulder to shoulder with the Sikh community. Before I was a councillor, I was secretary of the anti-racist committee, organising the counter demonstrations against the racists and fascists. I introduced Asian language teaching in mainstream schools. I negotiated the protocol in terms of getting the child back into the school, which has been used across the country to prevent such situations happening before. And I've also campaigned on numerous things with the Sikh community. The most recent one was the anti-alcohol zone, where we have been so successful in stopping alcohol consumption on public places that it now been spreading to the whole of City of Wolverhampton. Look at actions, not promises.
Lastly, from my right, 5 seconds, what do you want to say for Sangat TV? Their services to the public.
Oh, fantastic. It's wonderful to have been invited. This has been a great occasion. I hope everyone's enjoyed it as much as me, and thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sangat. You are a remarkable channel providing information and services to the community.
Cath.
Thank you, Sangat, for giving us the opportunity to come and talk about how we can improve your communities and have a long and lasting relation with Sangat TV.
Thank you.
Thank you to Sangat TV and Baisab Ji for having the initiative to have this channel in the first place, but also can I say Sangat TV has in the past put itself at risk, certainly in the rights, and I appreciate the work which Sangat TV has done.
Derek.
Sangat TV, I thank you for bringing communities together. You know we've been on the journey for a long time. Babaji, thank you for your support. I really appreciate it.
Bob.
Sangat TV, you are one of the innovative ways of reaching out to our communities. Your work during the riots was led the way across the whole of the country. May you long continue that leadership.
Dear viewer, you heard the debate. That's entirely up to you. You make your mind up to whom you're going to be vote for. But make sure, come out, vote on 15th of November. No matter to whom you vote, whoever Bennett must take part, because this is a part of your life. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I try my best to be fair with everybody. I try my best. Well, you know, I only can say that. Thank you very much again. Thank you to the viewers and the Sangat TV. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.